Hey, all, welcome to this live stream episode of the Smarter Business Podcast, where we talk to entrepreneurs who are finding interesting ways to grow and operate their businesses utilizing video. We talk specifically, too, about the how in some of these episodes so that you can do it, too. If you find this info engaging and useful, go ahead and hit all the engagement buttons on whatever platform you happen to be on. Subscribe, share, review. You know what those things are. So today we are kicking off Video Podcast Month on the Vidwheel Creator Network, or VCN, and we're doing that with a fellow video podcaster and entrepreneur, Donnie Boivin. Donnie, it's a pleasure to have you.
Hey, Neil, good to hang out with you as always, my friend. Any opportunity I get the chance to make fun of you is a good day for me.
Well, here's your chance. I'm going to throw it over to you. You could either use it to make fun or introduce yourself and what you're doing. It's your call.
So, just a 2 sec. I'm Donnie Boivin, CEO and founder of the Success Champion family of companies. That includes Success Champion Networking, Champions Table Masterminds, and a Badass Business Summit. Everything we do is focused on helping people get to business freedom. So, and we do it through a whole lot of mediums, podcasts, social media, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah. It is a great group for anybody who hasn't checked it out, and we'll have a chance to kind of come back and tell people where to find it and everything after. But a lot of education, a lot of networking, a lot of like kind of shared learning experiences, which I think are just cool, right? And they're a great way to build your business, right?
Sure.
So I do stick people to, if you had to boil your business or what you're trying to do down to one sentence, do you have a one sentence version, Donnie?
Yeah, I have one purpose, and that is literally helping people to get to business freedom. I want to teach all the shit nobody taught me as I was building a business, man. We all get really, really dark as we're building a business, and we get, turn ourselves into an island because we don't want people to know how bad it is. So I'm constantly sharing the dark side of business, and sharing all my screw ups and failures and mistakes, because I want people to understand that, this isn't easy. Building a business is hard. It's a lot of damn work, and you're going to meet yourself along the way. So our sole purpose is to help as many people get to business freedom as possible. So
right on. Yeah, it is a winding path, isn't it? It's not always going forward. So
sure.
yeah, and that's something I know you hit on a lot in your book and everything like that. Telling people the things, the like maybe almost less pleasant things that you're not always told by folks who want to paint a rosier picture. So,
well, for sure. Most of us were employees for a number of years, and then we decided to open a business. And if you're anything like me, you have no damn clue what it means to run a business. There's no like book written that says, here's step one, here's step two. It's go screw it up, get punched in the face, and go again. And the people who find success are most of us who are just too dumb to throw in the towel. Where everybody else quits, we keep going and just figure things out along the way. But that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, right? It is. And so many folks who are in the like kind of solopreneur space or small businesses, you start up that business because you know how to do something, right?
Yep.
And then you go and you try to make that skill into a business, and there's a process there, right? Like
For sure. Well, think about it. You were good at something, and we throw it to anybody. You had me good on the video side of thing. I was good on the sales side of things. You don't think about all the other things that go into running a business. Is, oh crap, now you got to do operations. Oh crap, now you got to do accounting. Oh shit, there's taxes. Then there's crap, now I got to still be out selling, and now, oh no, I got to deliver all this stuff. And next thing you know, you look like the clown with all the spilling paints in the air, hoping one of them doesn't fall. And all the while you're trying to put on this sunshiny smiley face because you don't want anybody to know that you're screwing everything up and you have no clue what you're damn doing. And you see the Instagram life from everybody. You get to see their highlight reel, and you're like, why don't I have that? What you don't know is most of those people are screwing up just as bad as you are.
Right. And it's easy enough to take a picture that makes it look all beautiful
Yeah.
and like it's working. Show me your books, right?
Yeah, which you don't see is that dude was crying right before
Right.
he took that picture, just wiped his eyes off enough to, get one smiley picture out of it.
Right on. So, well, with that, we're going to bring it back to a little more positive side of things here. It is a rough path, and but one of the reasons that I reached out to you about being on the podcast today, and specifically yourself, is tied to your community, the Success Networking or Success Champions Network,
You'll get it out.
and I work on it a few times, and then I get it. And it's also pertinent to my group, the VCN, and hopefully it'll be pertinent to everybody watching and listening out there.
Sure.
But in one of Donnie's Becoming a Champion meetings, which are training networking sessions where Donnie kind of talks to the group about what he does, you brought up your process for breaking down a video podcast and how much content, and this is good quality content that you can get out of a single video podcast episode.
Yep.
And having a system to break it down and all that. So I 100% agree. This is one of these spaces where we get most of our video content. And after some discussion directly in the meeting and some discussion with a few group members after, I'm doing it too. So we're going to use this podcast, this that we're creating right now, as an example to show off kind of how I process things through my system. And we'll look at the tech stack that I use and the kind of processes involved in breaking down a video podcast episode into a whole lot of content. And now, for anybody out there who wants to check that out, I will be presenting that process on November 17th at noon Eastern at one of our Zoom meetups, which is titled Video Podcast, the Everlasting Gobstepper of Content. And you can find that and RSVP to it at events.vidwheel.com. And while you're at that events link, you might also see that we have S.A. Grant speaking to the group this Thursday at noon. That's on the 3rd. He's going to give us 13 reasons you need to have a video podcast as part of your content strategy.
If you're ready to have your mind blown on that one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. The essay is great. And it's events.vidwheel.com for that. So now that I plugged all my stuff, Donnie, back over to you. Let's jump
into... Day. You need to take a breath? I mean, did you get it all?
We've got more. That's awesome. But let's get into the video podcast. So my first question's a short one, but not a simple answer. Why? Like, what makes this type of content special?
It was interesting. I saw that Mr. Beast sent a message to Elon Musk now that Elon's bought Twitter. I'm not getting political or anything like that. What was fascinating is Mr. Beast suggested that we should go back to fix Twitter. They should actually go back to almost Vine, which was the 7-second videos that came out. And so Vine was kind of like the first platform that came out short, targeted freaking video content. And, I'll tell everybody that if you're putting out any sort of content whatsoever, that there is no stronger medium than video, and I don't care where you post it. If you look at time, we started off with stone tablets, was like the first, or cave drawings, and that went all the way up to radio, and radio transformed the entire world. But man, as soon as TV hit the marketplace, there's never been a medium on the face of the earth like video to capture the attention of massive audiences. And now, especially with the growth of short form video and how much people, going to the bathroom takes people 45 minutes now because they're sitting there scrolling on TikTok or Instagram Reels, and people are waking up, standing up with their legs falling asleep. I'm not strictly a video guy, but we put out a ton of video content to capture, Gary Vee's phrase, capture the attention of all the people that are consuming the information we put out there. And for me, video gives them, outside of being on stage in front of people, video gives them the full personality and impact of the conversation of the tools and things you're putting out there, because you get the tonality, body language, and everything that comes along with presenting to other people. So I just think that, it's a easy medium to get into. I mean, you got a cell phone, you can get into video content. Getting good at video content takes a lot more expertise and editing and all that stuff. But there's just never been a more cool time to start producing video content than right now.
Yeah, right. I agree with that. Like it is, and I think going back to one of the things you said, where there's a lot of like nonverbal communication that I think can come through, and like specifically for a lot of the folks that I work for or work with or myself, you get a chance to like really meet somebody, learn a little bit about the way that they do things, even before you have like maybe a we'll call it a synchronous conversation, because so many of mine are still on video, even when it gets to that client stage or something. But
For sure. Same.
people get a feel for you, and they can self-select whether they like the way you're doing things or not, and that's all good, right?
Dude, I had a gal the other day said she was like, I'd love to spend down and get to know you. And so she sent me a calendar invite, and it only asked for my phone number. And I said, oh, let's jump on a Zoom. She goes, oh no, this is old school phone call.
Yeah.
It was awkward.
Yeah. I don't like the phone calls.
No, I want the body language. I want the back and forth, so we can have a great conversation. Because this feels more like, I mean, right now you're up in New York somewhere, I'm in Texas, but it feels like we're sitting in a coffee shop. So
yeah,
I want that.
It is. It's a more productive conversation, I feel like, so often, right? So yeah. Very, very well said there. And I guess here's an awkward kind of pivot. We'll go into your podcast strategy. We talked about why it's good, but some of what we're trying to do on this podcast, and we're trying to get better at it, is give people like really actionable kind of things that they can do. So like, you have a podcast. It's called the Growth Mode Podcast. You can find it on all the major platforms. It's a great kind of discussion between you and Kevin Snow, who's also with the SEN, and a lot of good kind of storytelling dynamic there and stuff. What overall, I guess, is the strategy behind it?
So one of the things that I learned early on is producing a volume of content can be an absolute beast, because, if you think about the amount of content it would take to put out on all the different platforms, when I say all the platforms, I'm saying Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, and anything else crazy that pops up, to put out that much content and to be successful in that much content is a ton of work for one individual to put out there. And so early on, even building the business, I had to find a way that I could produce a ton of content that would be easy to do and would fit naturally into what I was already doing. So the nice thing about, by the time we launched Growth Mode, I already had a cool methodology to create a massive amount of content. So as we launched it, I could teach it to a whole bunch of other people now, because we have more people to help us on the teams than I did when I first launched, and got in the podcasting space, so that we could give different segments and portions to different team members to make this a lot easier. So, but I stumbled into it completely because I needed a lot of content, and I didn't want to. The idea of sitting down trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to say in front of the camera today? It's just nerve-wracking as hell. So if you already had something that you were putting content on that would allow you to repurpose and do all the likes, then it made it a lot more sense to figure out how do you leverage that. So that's where everything started from. Yeah. And so you want me to go through it, or?
Yeah, I mean, we could do a quick run through it
Yep.
about how you use it. Yeah.
Yeah. So my strategy is we already do a video recording podcast. So we use Riverside.fm as our, host to do all the podcast stuff. But that records video and audio. We will take that video over to, and I'll use the generic ones, and I'll talk the ones about you and I both fell in love with, right? So I old school, take it over to otter.ai, get it transcribed, take the transcription tool over to Grammarly, get that text cleaned up. That becomes your main blog post. Go through that blog post, highlight a bunch of quotes, get 20 to 30 quotes out of there. Then take the video format over to a program called OpenShot, which is a free open source video editor. And in there, you can chop up a whole bunch of little clips that become all your micro clips. You take all your quotes over to Canva. You can use a bunch of their templates, throw some pictures in there. Now all your quotes become your memes and graphics and social media posts that you put out there. And then, you use the blog to create micro posts for LinkedIn and everything else. But literally, you can take a video and in about an hour create 30 days worth of absolute content, especially if you get good with the programs. Now you and I have both found Descript, which is an absolute freaking game changer.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love OpenShot too, though. That's part of our overall kind of tech stack for the VCN members. But I'm a big fan of not doing anything in post production.
Right.
So that's Descript is great for that,
dude. And with Descript, since they put that studio sound effect in, man, you hit one button and all of a sudden your audio's like, I'm like,
it's much, it's nice. Levels it out, makes it pretty, makes it sound good. So I'm a big fan. And that is, not to spoil it, but that's a big part of what we're going to talk about on the 17th.
And dude, I can tell you, you couldn't say enough right now that could spoil it, because that's one of those programs that you have to see in action, dude. So I hope you're going to walk them through, because holy cow, that thing's insane.
Yeah. And they're constantly making changes and updates that I think really, sometimes there's changes for the sake of change, and sometimes there's changes that actually move the needle. And I think a lot of the stuff I've seen since I've started using it that they've done, they're doing it right? Like they're making changes that make it more useful to their users, which
I tell you, that's one of the things that we look for in vendors now, that when we use, is what does their roadmap for the future look like? When we were even choosing which community app we were going to use to build out the SEN online community, we looked at all the big players and all the big community building apps, and the one we chose with, because their roadmap, they were taking on a $25 million seed round, and they were showing all the things they were building towards, and all the other communities were like, this is what you get, this is where we're at, and if anybody's familiar with the podcast space, all the other communities are stuck like where Libsyn is still stuck back in the damn Stone Age with all their crap when it comes to podcasting, and all these other platforms keep innovating, and Libsyn still has the old green screen crap, so it's always cool to look and see where companies are going, and that's who we'll always partner up with.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can mention it. You're working with Circle,
Circle.so. And dude, I talked to the president of their company. We've had a couple of really good conversations about the trajectory and where we're going, and especially for the communities we're building. And same thing with like Captivate.fm for my podcast hosts. Those guys, they're podcasters, and so like the CEO of Captivate, Mark Askowitz, I forgot his name for a second. He's got a Star Wars podcast. So they only built the host because they wanted special tools that they could play with, right? So everything they build is to make their lives easier. So when you got things like that, and they're constantly innovating, they're constantly evolving, those are the, people that you want to partner with, that are building for themselves basically, and just happen to put it out in the marketplace.
Right. They're building, and they're making stuff that works because they already know the problems, right?
So they're sitting there and they're like, man, this portion of whatever I'm working on sucks. How do we fix it? And that becomes part of their dude, man, I love those guys.
Yeah, right on. That's we use Buzzsprout. You ever use them at all
Mm.
or heard of them? Yeah,
If you ever
they've
moved over to
worked out well.
Captivate, you'd never use
Yep.
Buzzsprout again. So
Okay. All
I'll,
right.
I'll sell I'll sell you on the idea of Buzzsprout. This is why.
All right.
So like workshops like this, or your any
Mhm.
of your upcoming workshops, if you're on Captivate, you could literally go, "Hey guys, on November 17th, we're doing the VidWill workshop where we'll take you through all the things. Sign up in the
Mhm.
link in my bio." If you record that snippet, and if you're in Captivate, you hit one button, and that commercial goes to the pre-roll, post-roll, or
Ah,
mid-roll of your entire
nice.
show. Every episode you have behind it. You can also then go put a short code in one post, and so you put that short code in there, and that text will hit every episode in the description.
Hmm. I do
Um,
like that.
Anytime you're going to bring a guest on, all of that's incorporated inside Captivate. You don't need Calendly or anything outside. So it's
Okay.
all built into the platform. Mark, dude, it's these guys have literally completely built an encapsulated thing just for podcast. It's insane.
Very cool.
So,
Very cool.
uh,
Well, don't. Hopefully, Buzzsprout's not listening. Got to go check that out.
hopefully they're not a sponsor of your show.
No, no sponsors here. All just stuff I use, right? So,
That's awesome.
all right. Well, let's bring it back to our podcast kind of strategy. We talked a little bit about your strategy. What do you think we talked a little bit about the benefits too. So, what do you think the biggest challenges of this medium are?
Well, something else has popped in my head, and I'll come back and answer that.
Okay, go for it.
Joe Rogan was the one that really got me onto the idea that a podcast needs to be video. And the reason I say that is I know it's not Joe, it's his team that they do some of the most fascinating marketing when it comes to get their content out. Because you'll watch to see a reel or a TikTok or something pop up, and it's like scientist tells Joe Rogan he's going to kick his ass, right? And so now you see it, and it's like Joe Rogan's all red in the face and yelling, then the scientist is like yelling back at Joe, and they kind of preempt his episodes with this kind of content. So now you're like, dude, I want to watch this episode to see Joe and this guy go at it. And what you realize as you watch it, that segment never actually happens. They took one section from over here and one section
Mm,
over here and chopped it together to get you to, just like you would for an infomercial type thing or whatever, to get you into the episode. And it's they are just brilliant at it, and they used Instagram and Twitter to really make it all work for him. And that's one of the reasons he was able to build such a massive show, was to get people to lean into it. But that leads right into, to answer your question, what the biggest challenge
yep.
is the editing side of things, and coming up with what is that magical moment that's going to get people to lean in. And I'll be honest, I've hired people to come in and create micro clips and everything, and it's very hard to tell somebody what you want them to capture in these micro clips,
Right.
because they were giving me clips back that were 30 seconds long, and I'd go in myself and still be editing them down to 15 because I wanted them shorter for TikToker, and I wanted to capture a particular moment. And that kind of stuff is very hard. Creative's very hard to articulate to somebody else. And then flip that over, if you're doing your own editing, especially your first 100 videos, you're going to take forever trying to get those things right, and then you're going to overthink them.
Yep.
And there's a ton of programs and things I use on my phone too to still do some of the video stuff, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah. It certainly it's a balance, right? Like anything else, you got to do enough to make it be something that stands out a little, but not so much that it doesn't allow you to do the things you have to do within your business, right? So
Yep.
that's but I also have had hired people to clip my stuff, and I always find like a lot of it's just your own kind of interpretation
Yeah.
of what clips really are going to resonate with your audience. So I think there's there and I know a lot of providers out there who I'm sure do a great job, but they have whoever's doing it's got to really know the audience. They need to
Yeah.
know what what's going to resonate with them, or the Joe Rogan example, what's going to get them to, what's clickbaity kind of
Yeah.
stuff to get them in there, like what's going to get them to engage that first time. So
Yeah, because it's hard for somebody else to look at your content and go, what's going to stop the scroll? Because if you're
yeah,
on your phone, you're just scrolling through, and yeah, it also depends on the platform. Because like for me, if I'm on Instagram and I'm not watching reels, I'm scrolling the feed. I hate when a video pops up because it like derails me just scrolling through the feed looking for content I want to engage with.
hmm
So it's understanding not only the platform but what content is going to play well on that platform.
yeah,
So it's you can't just hire a complete amateur that's not into your brand to try and do this for you.
right. Somebody yeah, they've got to know the platform and know the client, and then be able to
Yep.
pull off the skill set. So, and so I'm going to go a little off topic here because you've brought up like kind of putting your content on all these different platforms, and this is just often a discussion that comes up within my group. I advise people to find a platform or two and just like create everything for those platforms. Do you how widespread are you? Are you going all out? It
I
sounds
will tell
like
everybody,
to
yeah, do
everyone.
not do what I do.
Yeah.
Do not do what I do. So literally today, as we're recording this, I know we're live too, but I just started a 30-day Instagram challenge because I need to get more dialed in on Instagram.
I
So
saw that. Yes.
yeah, I'm I'm
You put it on
I'm
LinkedIn.
ex-
Yeah.
yeah, I'm extremely active in three major areas. So I'm extremely active in our online community, SEN Online, which we do through Circle. Extremely active on LinkedIn, extremely active on Facebook.
Okay.
I am consistent on YouTube. I won't say I'm active on YouTube. I've been very consistent in posting. That one is more automated through a team,
hmm
but Instagram and TikTok. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter sometimes, Instagram, TikTok, that's all me
Yeah.
putting out and producing all the content. And what I will tell people is if you can't, if you don't have the time to engage on a platform, don't worry about being on that platform and producing
Okay.
content. Because without engaging, you can put all the content in the world you want out there. It's not going to go anywhere.
I like that as like a kind of fail safe, right? And
Hmm.
then you could, if you find that you're not ever able to make it to one, then you kind of pull back on it or whatever.
Yep.
Part of the reason I asked too is there's another school of thought that would be post everywhere, even if it's maybe not the perfect content. You get your brand recognition out there a little more and stuff. So that's a good take. But I 100% agree that if you're not engaging, it's probably not going to turn into much of anything for you. So
For sure. Yeah. I mean, so the post everywhere approach, shotgun approach, if you will, to it, I mean, that keeps your name out there. But if nobody ever sees the content, is it really serving you? Would be my question for it, because it sucks going to a new platform. Like I'm
mhm,
getting geared up on Instagram. I got like 9,000 some odd followers on Instagram. I don't know where the hell they came from.
yeah,
Like on Twitter, I've got 1,000 followers on Twitter. I don't know where they came from. So when I look at it from that regards, I've not done anything to build that following. And I put a tweet out, nobody likes your comments. I put an Instagram post out, very few people like and comment, right?
right,
Because I haven't done the engagement work to get people to say, hey, this is good stuff. I put a post out on LinkedIn, I get quite a few comments, but I've been since January been pounding on LinkedIn. I put out a Facebook post and it really goes because since the inception of my business, I've been pounding on Facebook.
yeah.
So it's playing on the platform, engaging, creating a community on the platform that allows you to do all the cool stuff that you want to do. And I
Yeah.
also tell people, man, embrace vanity metrics. I don't give a shit what any guru says. It feels good when somebody comments and likes your crap.
Well, and I would go beyond that and say comments like true interactions
Yep.
are not vanity metrics. Like that's
Mm,
somebody taking a
I like
moment
that.
out of their
Yep.
day to either try to shoot down your point of view or start a conversation, whatever it is. But where I think, like, I'm almost exclusively on LinkedIn and we do a little bit on YouTube, but impressions, right? Don't
Yep.
care about impressions. Care about at least a reaction, right? Reactions, comments, conversation started, right? Those types of things. That's what
Yeah,
I'm all about.
I've gotten to the point where I measure DMs.
Yeah. Okay.
If I'm not getting, direct messages off of the content, then I want to say it's the wrong content because I'm still getting content, comments and interactions and things on there. But I know it was a great post when somebody sends me a message, said, man, I need to hear this today, or they'll comment, man, I needed to hear this today. Those type of
Right.
things. That's the kind of way that I'm gauging, is what I'm doing successful. Because it's those DMs are the ones that turn into bigger, further conversations.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's where the sales happen, right?
Yep.
You got to get to
100%.
nobody's buying off a link in your on a post, right? Like it
Right.
usually goes to a conversation before that next step. So
Yep.
excellent. I'm going to ask you one more podcast question, and then we're
Sure.
going to get into kind of the wrap it up section here. So, do you have any specific success stories that you could tie right to your video podcast, right? Like a client that's come out of it, somebody, I don't know.
Oh, several. Because of growth mode, we can track, I mean, we don't have a whole lot of engagement on like YouTube, but from chopping up those videos and putting them on other platforms, I can, I won't say their names on here, but I can tell you specifically several people, individuals that came to us because of a video post or something we put out there that was chopped up off the long form stuff.
Nice.
Um, which is a cool thing. And in addition, to kind of flip it from being my content put out there, I can tell you a ridiculous amount of people that have found us because I guested on somebody else's podcast or video show, right? And have come back to me. And a good test for anybody who's putting out content is, when's the last time you Googled your own name and clicked on images or videos? So I do this every
Yeah.
once in a while just to see if I'm got enough content out in the marketplace. And so if it's only my content, then I got to go get a guest on more podcasts.
That's a
If it's other people's shows popping up, now I've got the right volume going. If
right.
that
Well,
makes sense.
and that's where you find that clip of you and Joe Rogan yelling at
Yep.
each other, right? So
Exactly.
everyone
Exactly.
go Google that one.
Just put in Donnie Boivin and Joe Rogan. It'll pop up.
Yes, it'll come right. All right, right on. Well, I ask one kind of common thread question that goes throughout all the podcasts, and that is, what is one place that video has been great for your business? Like one way that it's made it smarter, and we'll hold it to one, even though there may be many. Which
Oh, there's
one's that?
plenty. For us, because video is such a killer content, when we use it as a promotional tool, it's probably our greatest asset. So, like promoting the Badass Business Summit, putting the highlight reels out there allows people to see the experience before they decide they want to purchase tickets or the likes. And so when you look at it from a promotional aspect of how do you use video to get eyeballs on what you need people to see and experience, it's really helped us out tremendously.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's a great platform there. And last question for you: where can people find you?
Oh, good. I was hoping that one. So, literally about 60 days ago, I started walking my farm in the mornings, 4 o'clock in the morning. And what I found for me is I was trying to get healthy. I'm 45 years old. This was time to probably take care of my damn self. So I decided I was going to go walk every morning. So, I go from gate to gate. I take my dogs, put them in the pasture, And then I go walk gate to gate, keep an eye on the dogs as they're running. But there's about 200 steps in between gates. And it's completely dark. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. So I started listening to podcasts as part of that walk because I needed to not just hear silence. I have ADHD, so silence, I tended to like feel like I'm Roger Rabbit and Tasmanian Devil did an 8 ball of crack going on inside my head most days. So I started listening to podcasts. Well, I did this leading all the way up to the Badass Business Summit, and a couple of interesting things happened. One, I lost 37 pounds. I should also say I was fasting during that time too. I'm still fasting, but I have never been so focused on my business as I was when I was doing that walk, because it's completely dark out, so you can't see hardly anything. And I got the podcast going, and the podcast allowed me to be distracted in my own thoughts because there was something for my brain to focus on. And so I got laser focused on the business. We can correlate the number or the actual business growth that happened during those 30 days leading up to the summit. So it led me to launch what we're called Champions 90. And Champions 90, anybody can go to champions90.com. It's a free thing that we're doing. It's 5 activities that you do for 90 days straight to get laser focused on not just your business, but also get focused on your personal growth. So it's 45 minutes of exercise, walk. That's all I did. 45 minutes listening to a podcast. That's, a business or growth oriented podcast. It's 30 minutes of doing cold reach outs. So that's cold DMing on LinkedIn or whatever platforms you're on. It's maybe cold calling, door to door, putting up, those type of cold outreaches. It's 30 minutes of warm conversation or hand raising activities where you put out original content. People can say, hey, I'm interested in this. Right now, this is a warm conversation, and then it's write 200 words a day. And what we've found is by people listening to these podcasts, being focused on that in the moment, that they are personally growing a ton, and then writing those words allows them to really grow as an individual. So it's been fantastic. You can just go even to like LinkedIn and type in #champions90 and just watch the post of the people who have taken up this challenge and what it's doing for their business. It's been awesome. So the best way to get to me is champions90.com. See me there, of course, Donnie Boivin on all the social platforms, but champions90.com will get you to me fastest.
Yeah, and LinkedIn profiles in the show notes for this, so everybody can find you there. And I recommend I just fell off the Champions 90 bandwagon a couple of days ago, Donnie. So
let's start over, brother. That's
I was in, but
how many days you make it?
It was about 30. I didn't even count it, but I went to was at this last Bills game. It's at nighttime. That's usually when I do my writing and wrap it up, and I
too many adult beverages.
Yeah, so it didn't happen, but it was good while it lasted. And I will start over. Yeah, I think that 200 words a day was the thing that really surprised me. Right,
same for me.
Very cool. Very cool. So Champions 90, go find Donnie there, and profile in the show notes. And let's see, if you find the info that we talked about today interesting and useful, go ahead again and hit those engagement buttons, like and comment if you're here watching us on YouTube or on LinkedIn, subscribe or review if you're listening to the audio version, and tell your friends and colleagues who would like to learn, grow, and thrive with video about this podcast. Donnie, thank you very much for coming on.
My honor,
and
always.
Everybody out there, happy creating.